So, Krystal and Saagar of Breaking Point's fame have been accused of anti-Semitism. This was a couple weeks ago, and it arose out of their appearance on the Joe Rogan show. Krystal was there criticizing money in politics, the undue influence of the Israel lobby, and in particular the injustice of removing Ilhan Omar from her committee assignments because of her alleged anti-Semitism. You will recall a few years ago, Omar tweeted out, "It's all about the Benjamins, baby," in reference to U.S. support for Israel. Some people accused her of anti-Semitism, saying she was trying to evoke this association between Jews and money with this innuendo. Others said that's unfair. Clearly, she was just criticizing a particular lobby. It may have been a poor choice of words, but we all know what she was talking about. And you can criticize the Israel lobby the same way you can criticize the oil lobby or the NRA or what have you. So that was Krystal's angle on Rogan. The problem is that as she was making these points, Rogan said something that is at least arguably anti-Semitic. And people took Krystal and Saagar to task for that as well. Some people said that Krystal's anti-Israel criticism was cover for anti-Semitism. Others said that she was complicit in not calling out Joe and just like letting the remark slide. So he kind of aiding and abetting anti-Semitism. So we're going to look at 3 clips to examine the issue. We're going to look at Krystal's appearance on Rogan. We're going to look at Krystal's defense of that performance. And then we're going to look at Saagar's defense of both Joe and Krystal. So yeah, I have edited these for time consideration, of course, but I think it's a fair representation of what's going on. And in particular, I'm going to render judgment on 3 issues. Is Krystal anti-Semitic? Is Joe Rogan anti-Semitic? And is Rogan's remark anti-Semitic, as distinguished from Rogan himself? So let us start out with Krystal's performance on Rogan.
I just saw like Nancy Pelosi is endorsing Adam Schiff for California Senate. When you read through the way that man lied to the American public through all of Russiagate, you're like,
yeah,
he should be like in prison for perjury, not being bolstered by one of the most powerful women in the country for the United States Senate.
Sitting next to Ilhan Omar, where she's apologizing for talking about it's all about the Benjamins.
Yeah,
which is just about money. She's talking about money.
She shouldn't have apologized.
I'll go ahead
and
say that's not an anti-Semitic statement. I don't think that is. It's about Benjamins or money. You know, the idea that Jewish people are not into money is ridiculous.
Listen.
That's like saying Italians aren't into pizza. It's fucking stupid.
Listen.
It's fucking stupid.
I understand that the way she phrased it, like she could have phrased it a different way so that people would have less of a freak out. But can you not talk about the influence of money in D.C.?
Of course.
This is very obvious. There's a very obvious reason why for my entire life there's been a uniparty consensus around our policy vis-a-vis the Israeli government and a total inability or unwillingness to criticize the Israeli government. I just saw.
Okay, so the rest is Krystal going on in the same vein, criticizing the Israel lobby, saying that the problem of anti-Semitism is exploited to stifle legitimate criticism of the Israeli state. The core of the controversy, of course, is Rogan's remark that saying that Jews don't like money is the equivalent of saying that Italians don't like pizza. And I will return to the question of whether anyone is being anti-Semitic in a bit. But preliminarily, it's important to point out that Rogan has said 2 very stupid things that are stupid irrespective of any anti-Semitism or its absence. So the first is this strange suggestion that Omar's critics somehow did not understand that Benjamins refers to money. And that if people just understood this, that would dissolve the confusion and end the controversy. That's plain stupid. Everybody understands that Benjamins means money in the context of Omar's remark. The question is, was Omar trying to associate money with Jews generally or with the Israel lobby specifically? That's the controversy. That's the source of the disagreement, not what Benjamins refers to. Now, the second stupidity that I have to object to is this association of pizza with Italians, as in to say that Jews don't like money is like saying Italians don't like pizza. Now, yes, pizza originated in Italy, but hey, this is the year 2023. We live in a globalized world. People everywhere like pizza. And there are people in Italy who like KFC and McDonald's. They got a lot of other foods besides pizza in Italy. So why would you make this association? Now, if this was 1905 and you are in New York's Little Italy and you go, wow, these Italians, they sure like their pizza. Okay, that would make sense. I don't think it makes sense today. Now, if you said that saying Jews don't like money is like saying the English don't like their fish and chips, that might make a little more sense because I still associate that food more distinctively with England. But pizza and Italians, it's a little forced. It's a little dated. Anyways, let's go on and hear Krystal's defense of herself.
I mean, first of all, I went back and thought through, our time with Joe and like that particular moment. And to the extent that I really thought about what he said that deeply at all, it was sort of like, oh, it's a off-color, like women be shopping level of joke. And so then I went on to make the points that I think are really important that I 100% stand by, which is that it's not anti-Semitic to talk about the influence of money in politics with regards to any topic, and even when it comes to the topic of our government's relationship with Israel and Israeli government policy. I think it is nonsense that Ilhan Omar got taken off of a committee because of her comments. I don't think anything she said was anti-Semitic. I don't think there was anything wrong with what she said. And I think we have to be able to be honest about the way money works in D.C.
So, by and large, I buy it. Not guilty of anti-Semitism is my verdict. The idea that anyone who was not anti-Semitic would have called out Joe Rogan, and that therefore Krystal is anti-Semitic because she didn't, is certainly overly simplistic psychologically. There are all sorts of reasons why you might not do that beyond being anti-Semitic. As Krystal explains it, she is in a particular mental space. She wants to talk about money and politics. She wants to talk about the Israel lobby. And Joe's remark is sort of out of left field. She doesn't quite know what to make of it. She treats it as a distraction. She just wants to move on. Very plausible psychologically. Krystal Ball has certainly no history of anti-Semitism. So I think it would be quite disingenuous to read anti-Semitism into that. But that being said, even though I'm not going to convict her of felony anti-Semitism, I am going to convict her of misdemeanor disingenuousness. And that is because there is an additional reason why she didn't call out Joe Rogan beyond seeing his remark as a distraction. And that is that his remark is really an embarrassment at a minimum to her position. She's out there saying any good faith actor, any intellectually honest actor is not going to interpret Ilhan Omar as speaking about Jews. She's talking about the Israel lobby, not Jews. And yet, that's exactly where Joe Rogan's mind goes. Your interlocutor goes exactly where you say no reasonable person would go. Now, that certainly doesn't undercut Krystal's position in general, but it is at a minimum an embarrassment, and it is also a third stupidity by Joe Rogan because he thinks he's helping Krystal. He thinks he's helping her advance her argument, but really he's undercutting it by going to Jews where she's saying no reasonable person would. Anyways, let's now hear what Saagar has to say.
You have nothing to apologize for. For all of the people who are out there saying, how dare you? Why didn't you confront him? First of all, he's a comedian and he was making a joke. Now, I'm not going to say it was the most artfully phrased joke or whatever in the world. And, if he wants to clean it up, that's on him. Number two, we were having a substantive discussion around the removal of a United States congressman around allegations that she made that influence of money in politics, something that we all seem to agree affects every platform on earth, but we're not allowed to discuss it here. As people can probably tell, I'm really upset because I'm not going to just sit here and let people smear you and Joe Rogan as anti-Semitic. We've got every pro-Israel group and all these congressmen on the planet denouncing us as somehow, like, what is it, anti-Semitic by allyship or some bullshit like that, because we sat by and didn't immediately call him out. Now, once again, I don't think that it was the best phrase joke. At the same time, like, who are you? What, you're the editor now? And, even then, take a step back. Do you believe Joe Rogan is an anti-Semite? I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second.
So on the question of whether Joe Rogan is anti-Semitic, I tend to agree with Saagar. Verdict, not guilty. Rogan does not have a history of anti-Semitic remarks or arguably anti-Semitic remarks. Temperamentally, he certainly does not seem like some angry guy who's walking around with a lot of prejudices in him. So, not guilty. However, the issue of Rogan's remark, as opposed to Rogan himself, is something else. The remark being that to say that Jews don't like money is like saying Italians don't like pizza. That characterization is certainly anti-Semitic by any conventional definition. He's basically saying that there's this undue interest in money, which is pretty much ubiquitous within the Jewish population, which is as prevalent with Jews as is love of pizza within the population generally. That goes well beyond saying, hey, there are a lot of Jewish financiers on Wall Street. It's much more extreme than that. So by any conventional definition, it is anti-Semitic. It might not be by certain alt-right definitions of anti-Semitism, and maybe that's a debate for another video, but in the usual sense of the term, it is certainly anti-Semitic. Now, Saagar's argument is, listen, he's a comedian, it's a joke, it's an off-color joke, maybe it's not the best joke, maybe it's in poor taste, but that doesn't make it anti-Semitic. Now, I'm going to concede, as a matter of philosophical principle, that a joke can rely on an anti-Semitic, racist, sexist stereotype without itself being anti-Semitic, racist, or sexist just because it relies on that stereotype. So, I am not defending a woke position. But still, for that to be the case, there has to be a joke. And I don't see the joke. I don't see a scintilla of bona fide humor in Rogan's remarks about Italians loving pizza. As I said, I feel that's kind of stupid. Was Rogan being sarcastic? Well, I did not detect a sarcastic tone. Now, there's an open question as to whether sarcasm is really a legitimate form of humor. You know, just saying the opposite of what you mean, that is pretty brutish and quite primitive, I think. But granting that it's a real form of humor, I did not detect any. I detected no humor at all in Rogan's remark. So, Saagar is saying, yeah, well, it's not anti-Semitic if you take it as a joke. Yeah, but I can't take it as a joke because I can't detect any humor. So, Rogan, not an anti-Semite, has said something which is anti-Semitic on any conventional definition of the term. What are we to make of that? So, one possibility, one part of the explanation, at least, is that, Rogan is a comedian, but he's not a very good comedian. He was trying to make a joke, and had he succeeded, his remarks would not have been anti-Semitic. But alas, he failed, and so they were. So it was not an intentionally anti-Semitic remark, but by virtue of that failure, it was anti-Semitic. The other explanation, or one other explanation, is that Joe Rogan is not personally anti-Semitic, but perhaps he feels that those anti-Semitic messages will resonate within at least part of his audience. And the other explanation is that, it's branding. He's not anti-Semitic. He's not necessarily trying to stoke anti-Semitism, but he wants to court controversy. Branding yourself as anti-woke is good for business, and that's how he did it. Now, between those three possible explanations, I'm not quite sure. I would be speculating. I'm not really in a great position to say, but I think it's one or more of those things. So let me know in the comments what you think. If you think that Rogan's humor is just too subtle for me, certainly let me know. And certainly like and subscribe. Help me grow this channel. Thanks very much.